Wondering how I went from general virtual assistant charging only $5 an hour to seven-figure agency owner in only 6 short years? I'm gonna tell you. Hey there. So one of the things people ask me most is, Tasha, how exactly did you build everything that you've built in your business? So I'm going to share both my origin story and some of the key lessons that I've learned over the course of the last several years. So when I first got into the online space, I was really green. I knew nothing about it. I actually started off as a hobby blogger, talking about frugal, healthy living. Very different from what I actually do today. But some of the key things that that blog helped me do was to get into some really great Facebook groups where people were having great conversations about how they were monetizing their blogs. And one of the ways that they were doing that was by creating courses and digital products. That really kind of lit a fire underneath me and really piqued my interest pretty quickly. And so I started looking more into how that was possible, how people were doing it, and those sorts of things. Around that same time, in those Facebook groups, I started seeing people asking for VAs, and they were looking to hire a VA. And I had no idea what those words or letters even stood for. But very quickly, I learned that VA meant virtual assistant. And I was working a full-time job in corporate at a nonprofit. And it was a job that I absolutely loved. But the only thing I didn't love was the paycheck. So I decided, hey, I have evenings, weekends free. Why don't I take on some extra work, try to make this VA thing kind of work and see how I feel about it. So there were a couple things that I did really right and a couple things that I did really wrong. And I want to tell you about the key thing that if I were to go back again and do it again, I would redo. And I knew that I wanted to get some clients under my belt right away and get some experience. So what I chose to do was to offer a special in November and December of 2016 for 10 hours of VA services for $50. Now, do not do this. It was a terrible idea. So the positive was that I did get a bunch of clients all at once. I think I had 10 clients in the course of maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And so that sounded great in theory that, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I have 10 clients. That was 10 clients for 10 hours a month at only $5 an hour. So really I only made $500 that first month for all of those clients. And it was 100 hours worth of work. What the heck did I do to myself? All of a sudden I had all this work. I had no experience on how to manage that work, on contracts, on project management, any of those things that I needed in order to have a successful business. But what I did do right is dig my heels in and learn on the go as quickly as I could. And so once I got through those first 2 months of those clients, the great thing was that I came out on the other end knowing what I loved to do and also knowing what I hated to do. And I think that's really important, that you kind of start to separate the sheep from the goats in a way really quickly in your business so that you can lean into the things that you love. I happened to come across a client who offered me something that to this day, I don't even know if she knows how much this changed the trajectory of the rest of my business. And so what she offered was putting me into a course all about launches in exchange for a certain number of hours for my services. I don't even remember how many hours of VA work I actually ended up doing for her, but it doesn't matter because it paid off in 20,000 fold. So I got into a course. It's actually a course that I don't even believe the content creator does courses or online anything anymore, but it was a really great starter course on how to build courses. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with launching. I fell in love with the tech, the building, and I quickly realized that the thing that I loved the most was launch tech. Now, a lot of times launch tech is the thing that people don't enjoy, right? It's the thing that scares people. But for me, the fast pace of it, the fact that every client was different, the fact that there was a lot of problem solving, it just really worked for how I like to work and for how my brain works. So what did I do? I decided to go all in on being a launch tech VA, or a launch tech specialist, as I like to call it now. I was really fortunate to get on some larger launch teams pretty quickly. And that gave me the ability to see the behind the scenes of how their launches were working, on what else was happening on the inside of those launches, on how their project management was set up, on who were the other key players in this launch. And that gave me an opportunity to just soak it all in and learn so much. So while I was doing that, I also had some clients that were smaller clients that were launching for the first time and didn't really have a launch team. They really just had me supporting them. And the thing that I loved about it was that I got to work really closely with them. The thing that I hated about it was the fact that they would always end up asking me to do all of these other things. So I started off as their tech VA and then quickly ended up designing their sales pages, writing some of their copy, uploading their Facebook ads, things that I had no idea what to do and were definitely not in my zone of genius or even in my zone of competence or excellence. That is where I started thinking about the idea of what would soon to become the Launch Guild, which is my agency. And the problem that I realized was that I was the only one that people knew. And so when they were looking for other things, I was the one that they were naturally going to ask to do that. And if I said no, they then needed to take up valuable time in their launch planning to find somebody to do their Facebook ads, to find somebody to do their project management and actually manage this launch, to find somebody to do their design and tech. Well, I was doing their tech, but all of the other pieces, right? Launches have a lot of different pieces. So with this idea, I started hiring my first people. I'm going to talk about hiring in a later video because that's a whole nother can of worms. But just know that those first hires weren't perfect, which is why we're going to talk about it later. With this idea, I started hiring some people. I started getting in some people that were experts in their own right in the things that I was not an expert in. So having a copywriter on the team, having a Facebook ads manager on the team, having a designer on the team, so that we could really support our clients in their online digital launches holistically. And then they wouldn't have to worry about going out and finding all of these different strategic partnerships and contractors and everything, on their own basically. So over the years, we have definitely evolved. We started off doing both online general VA, virtual assistant, and online business management, OBM support, as well as launches. And then quickly we realized that the thing that we love to do, the thing that my team and I just were so excited about was when we had a client come to us and say, we want to launch. And that was the thing that made us so excited. The ongoing VA support, the ongoing OBM support, it was nice in terms of recurring revenue, but it wasn't the thing that lit a fire for any of us. We were a team that really enjoyed and had become really great at the ins and outs of launches. Let me give you some actual data and some numbers. 2017 was my first full year in my business, and I was still doing it very part-time, but after those first 4 months of 2017, that's when I started having the conversation with my husband about going from part-time in my business to full-time in my business and leaving my full-time job. Thankfully, I have the most supportive husband in the entire world, and he was like, as long as you can pay your part of the bills, go for it. And you know what? Within those first 4 months of 2017, I actually started outpacing my full-time income with my part-time income as being a tech VA. I quickly realized that I had something, right? This was something that if I had more time to spend on just getting things set up and doing it the right way, I knew I could make something out of this. So that's exactly what I did. I let my boss know in, I believe it was August of 2017, that I was leaving. I didn't end up leaving officially until January of 2018. But in that first full year of 2017, I made $40,000 when I was working mostly part-time or all part-time in my business. And then it just scaled up from then each and every year until 2021, which is when we hit our first 7-figure year inside of the Launch Guild. Now, one of the reasons that I now have both the agency side and what we like to call the Tasha Booth side, which is my personal brand, is the fact that number one, I'm multi-passionate. I love doing lots of different things, and I've never ascribed to the notion that you have to really pick one lane and only do one thing and only focus on one thing. I've tried that, and when I do that, I really don't enjoy it. And so I believe in building a business that I enjoy. I think it is such an honor and such a blessing to be able to create something like this from the ground up. And so I'm going to do my darndest in making myself really happy and fulfilled and excited about my business, which means I'm going to lean into being multi-passionate. And I believe that that's okay. So that is the reason why I have the agency side as well as the Tasha Booth side, which is my coaching support and my certifications for launch specialists. Now, I really took about the first year and a half to maybe about 2 years on the agency side to slow down, to be really methodical about creating the operations, hiring the right team members, making sure that things were going swimmingly on that side so that when I turned my attention to the coaching, that part of the business could continue to run and work and be supported without me. So we took a lot of time to make sure that the Launch Guild was fully supported, that we had the right people in the right seats, that we had the right systems, that everything was templatized so that I could focus and move my attention to the coaching and course side. I think that's the thing that people fail to see sometimes when they see everything that I've kind of built in the last 6 years. They don't see the progression and how it wasn't all built in a day, right? I was methodical, which was really hard for me because I love just doing things on a whim, but I slowed myself down. I was methodical. I thought about what I wanted to build and how I wanted to build it, and I made it happen. And so the first thing that I started to do after my agency felt really in a really good place is I started coaching virtual assistants in starting and growing their businesses, and then realized that, you know what, my heart is really for other agency owners and other launch specialists. This is the thing that I'm doing day in and day out with my team. And so I wanted to do more of that with who I was coaching, how I was coaching them. And I think that the other cool thing about it is both sides now feed off of each other. In the agency, we get to try new strategies with our launch clients, right? We get to see what's working in launches right now. And then with my launch students in both of my certification programs, the one for launch managers and the one for launch tech specialists, I get to implement them. I get to show them what's working, what's not working, you know, what kind of client you should try different strategies with and that sort of thing. And then with my agency clients, same thing. I get to show them what I'm learning about leadership and what I'm learning about hiring and what I'm learning about communication and operations and all of that as we're building basically together. I hope this was helpful. Definitely like and subscribe if this was helpful for you. Leave a comment below. And if you have any questions about my agency or about my coaching, I would love to answer them. Let's continue the conversation. Talk to you soon.